Now, thank you very much for inviting me, and it was really a pleasure to write a research piece for the Institut of Bosphore. I've tried to take an angle from a European standpoint, but I'm a global economist, so I was thinking about what are the big forces today that are going to shape the fate of Europe and of Turkey and all the countries in the neighboring of Europe. There are two forces. One is the technological change. The other one is competition between the two superpowers, which are the US, the United States, and China. So if you think of these two telluric forces, they might accelerate, they might slow, which gives you four different words. And I've tried to figure out where Europe and Turkey would be in the cross currents between technology and competition between the two superpowers. And my conclusions were relatively gloomy. There's only one case in which Europe could thrive. It is if technological change slows down, I call that iPhone forever, and the competition between the US and China softens. I call that soft deglobalization, soft being the important word. In that word, that's okay for Europe. We can continue to do what we do, and for the countries around the Mediterranean Sea, I would say that it is also a good scenario. But in all other cases, Europe is threatened. And in the harsher scenario, where competition intensifies, leading to a chaotic world, and technology becomes more disruptive, I think the European Union could break down. And we have memory in Europe of what it is when the countries in Europe are disunited. I don't want to elaborate on that. Now, what could change the world as far as Europe is concerned? Two fields are extremely important in my opinion. The first one, Europe should invest massively in basic and applied research. Europe should become again a leader in science and technology. And to do that, we need to put more resources and to accept more competition and to collaborate with as many countries as possible. Right now, Turkey is part of the European Research Council, and there are very good teams of research in Turkey which are benefiting from grants. If we multiply by 5 the budget of the European Research Council, that would allow Europe to be again at the edge of research. The second area where Europe could take the leadership is the fight against climate change, which is starting to impact our economies and which will impact even more economies in the next 10, 20 years, as we all know. Europe could become the leader because Europe is already well advanced in cutting its CO2 emissions. My conviction is that if Europe, the European Union, manages to agree on a price for carbon, with a carbon tax at the borders, which would be redistributed to the people, then Europe would create the condition to change the fight against climate change on a global basis, because many countries, many partners, starting with China, would be interested in adopting the same policy in order to keep their access to the internal market of Europe. Now, if, that's a big if, because politicians are not very enthusiastic about either research or carbon pricing, but if we do that, in cooperation with countries with which we are already cooperating, and I'm thinking really of Turkey about that, then that could change not only the fate of Europe, but that could change the world.